What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to, if you're tuning in from the Crypto Kindness channel, welcome back to the Crypto Kindness channel. My name is Jeff.
And welcome back to Cryptographics if you're watching from the Cryptographics channel. And welcome to our first dual stream between Crypto Kindness and I. It's going to be a weekly scheduled show where we're going to cover everything in the PTGC ecosystem, TitanX ecosystem, as well as Pulse Chain and beyond. And man, I'm really excited to be doing this. It's a great idea, and I think this is going to be a lot of fun.
Dude, I'm excited. I'm pumped. I think it's fun that we're coming together. I mean, we've kind of had the same streaming journey for the last 2.5, 3 years, a lot of the same ecosystems, which is ultimately how we came together on this idea. We're both firm believers in the TitanX ecosystem and the PTGC ecosystem, both of which have a lot of similarities. So I think it's going to be harmonious to discuss them both. And ultimately, listen, if you're in PTGC or if you're in TitanX and you're not in the other one, you're doing it wrong. And that's kind of why we came together here. So super excited to be with you here today, Steve. Anything you want to talk about?
Well, there's only a couple things to talk about today. There's only a few things. I mean, first things first. TitanX founder Jake Sharp is currently streaming with Ali Kane of the Blaze ecosystem, and he's just announced Titan Farms.
Incredible.
So if you haven't been following what that is, I mean, geez, hold on to your hat, hold on to your socks. Things are about to get pretty wild here. So let's get right into it. Now, before we go, the title of this stream, we're talking about the easy way, the easy path, the best path to $1 million.
Yeah.
So
and there's more than one.
There are many pathways, and there's not one pathway, that's for sure.
But I'm going to put a teaser out there. So how we're going to do these streams, if you're watching us live, you're going to hear it all, but we're just going to break it down into individual conversations. So for today's stream, we're going to start probably with the first 20 to 25 minutes-ish about the TitanX Farms that was just launched. We're actually going to watch part of that stream together and comment as it goes through. Then we're going to address questions from the audience, and then we're going to move on into the PTGC ecosystem. If you're catching this stream after it's already happened, there will be timestamps below if you wish to skip to any particular point. However, I recommend that you watch the whole thing because you're going to learn something the entire time. And that's why Steve and I are here. We want to help educate you and make it so that everybody is successful during this bull market. And I think that is actually possible if you know how to play the game. And that's exactly what we're going to be discussing over the next several months. So, man, let's jump right in. Let's bring up that stream with Jake and Ali Kane talking about the TitanX Farms. We're going to just watch this delayed and then have our comments as we hear parts and all this type of stuff. So if you have questions, throw them out in the chat. We'll get to them. Go ahead. And I was going to tell you to do it, but I'm actually in charge here. So
yes.
Okay. Go ahead and do it.
We're going to start at a specific clip because this clip, we both were like, wait, what? We were watching this before the stream. We're trying to get to speed, and we're going to start with this clip. And I think we can go back a little to update you guys on the other nuts and bolts, but I want to start here so you can see some of the firepower of Titan Farms that's about to come in here. Yeah, so check this out.
Tape. So explain the buy and burn again, just because there's a lot of people starting to join. Explain how the buy and burn works again.
So the buy and burn works there is a distinction between two types of tokens within the farms. So you have something called input tokens and just general tokens. So if, for example,
there's going to be 4 input tokens to begin. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Eric is going to confirm this, but the input tokens that I know of are TitanX, DragonX, Hyper, and Hydra. So those are input tokens. So what happens with input tokens is there's a specified burn percentage. So the liquidity fees will get burned. So you have an external burner on these protocols, and people get incentivized with Think. But these input tokens have a burn percentage and they have a buy and burn percentage. So for example, if you set the burn percentage to 20% and the buy and burn percentage to 80%, that means if, let's use TitanX for example, if the farm collects 1 billion TitanX, it would burn 200 million, in this case, 20%. And the other 800 million would buy, Think, and burn it. So the liquidity fees for the input tokens specifically don't get...
Pause. Let's go.
First pause. So the liquidity fees, that's what you hear when people are talking about they're providing liquidity, they're getting fees. They're earning a reward for taking the risk of providing liquidity. Mm-hmm. And so it sounds as though in these pools, and we're going to learn more as he talks here, but it's all pulled together through a smart contract. And that smart contract, the fees will be paid to that. And so they're going to take 80% of those fees, which isn't insignificant, by the way. I've been providing liquidity for the last month and a half and done very well doing that. The 80% of that is going to be set aside to buy TINK, which is the incentive token you get for providing the fees. So immediately the first thing I see is usually incentive tokens hyperinflate and go down over time. We saw that with Ink and the Pulse Chain ecosystem. We've seen it in many other places. This is the first that I've ever heard of a farm token with a buy and burn attached to it. That's crazy to me. What are your thoughts?
Oh man. Well, okay. So just for the audience's reference too, if you were to go to the Ink or BBC charts as two, we know these two tokens because they're, they're fairly close to home. Go look at those charts. They have very similar charts. And they have very similar incentive structure, supply, emissions, all this stuff. Now, that chart is what I was personally expecting TINK to do. But those two charts, Ink and BBC, do not have the same buy and burns as TINK is going to have. TINK is potentially going to have 80% of the fees, or more or less, depending on which pool it is, going straight into this token, which is going to constrict supply and increase demand. And the one thing to consider here too is that with TINK, there's pools in the PulseX V1 farms. There are incentivized pools with TINK or Ink and like Hex or Ink and PulseX, right? And imagine now for a second, Ink is deflationary and there's farms. What's going to happen to the demand for that token and the price? Because people need it to get in to these farms, but it's getting more difficult to get and the supply is going down. I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, to me, when I hear that, I think about that, it's just like, okay, come on, that's nuts.
Well, historically, farming tokens are dump tokens. That's the whole point of them, is it incentivizes you to farm, lock up your liquidity. They give you something else to dump instead of fees and or the coin itself. But this is, you're incentivized to actually not dump because there's going to be buy and burns. Yeah, man. All right. We could talk about this forever, but roll the tape unless you have something else you want to add.
No, the only thing I want to add is just, I guess, maybe a base understanding for anyone that is not really familiar with what the intention of farms is. Because there's a couple of things. If you go back to the stream, which I think we put in the chat below, and I would really recommend you go and watch from the beginning because there's a lot of very basic, small details that will give you the full picture. But a little 1 minute kind of nutshell pitch is it's a place, it's very, very similar to, or it's going to act very similar to PulseX farms in the sense where it's effectively making the liquidity that someone puts into these pools work across the full range, which is different than V3 for most people and how they use it. So this will increase, it'll create a little bit more volatility on average, which is fantastic for price performance. It has the potential to take a lot of the sell or buy walls that people are putting up or thickening liquidity and bringing them into the pools. So that way, basically, people can have a more or less likelihood of impermanent loss. And the core four are going to be the four that are going to start. So you got TitanX, DragonX, Hyper, and Hydra. And this is all going to be directly through the interface that they're going to have for Titan Farms, where you're going to basically put your liquidity in there. It's going to automatically give you or put your liquidity into the pool full range. And it's going to give you basically a share of the NFT position that is created at that time. Did I hit everything there? Did I miss anything?
Yeah, I think you hit it pretty well. And I know as we listen in further into this clip, a lot of that is also explained. So it's great for you to touch on it now, and then we'll hear it again to further explain that. So go ahead and hit play. Thank you.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Given to liquidity providers, but they get overly incentivized with a essentially deflationary farm token.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the massive innovations within the smart contract. They have this thing called a swap pad. So what could happen with a swap pad? So let's assume the 800 million TitanX gets used to buy and burn things. So it can take a couple of routes. It can go TitanX stink, burn stink, or it can go TitanX buy DragonX, DragonX buy stink, and then burn stink. The swap pad can be configured within the smart contract to route it, like we all do with our fancy ass buy and burn. So this will have some massive effects on the ecosystem because there's some very interesting things that can be played there. Input tokens can be added in the future. So those are just the four that the smart contract is starting with.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's use another example. Let's use input token and general token. So like TitanX Volt, for example. So Volt in this case would not be an input token, which means that liquidity providers that go into that part of the farm will earn Volt fees but not the input TitanX fees, because TitanX is considered an input token. And there's also going to be a token pair where it's like 0 input token, so it's just a normal liquidity position where you earn liquidity fees and TINK. But the farms that have the input tokens also get overly incentivized, because you give up a small percentage of your liquidity fees for to feed the buy and burn of TINK, and you lock up tokens, etc. So you get overly incentivized with TINK and those pairs.
I'm going to pause right there. Jeff, can you break down what he just said? Because that's huge. I don't know if you guys are catching this for if you're viewing, but that is huge. That is a huge incentive.
Yeah, I understand it in my brain. I don't know that I understand it well enough to explain it simply, which is always the true definition of how well you understand it is how simply you can explain it. But basically, if you provide liquidity with the core tokens, again, core tokens, TitanX, Hydra, Hyper, and DragonX. If you provide liquidity with those 4 tokens, you will be overly incentivized. So you will make, as I heard this, we don't know the details yet, but you will make more by providing to this farm in the way of TINK than you would if you had just provided through Uniswap V3. And the reason why they're overly incentivizing you, as he just said, is because part of those fees are going to be going to a buy and burn for TINK, and as we'll learn, maybe more things, I don't know. But so you're actually going to get more. that's the best way to put it. So like you'll make more here than perhaps if you had done it through Uniswap directly. Am I saying that right, or did I make that worse?
No, I think you nailed it. I think
Okay.
the only thing I would add is that, if we're comparing this just for a base ground floor point of relativity, so to speak, where you can understand how this compares to, let's say, the Pulse X V1 pools. And no way am I saying this is better or worse. I'm just comparing them so you understand the potentials here, right? But with farms, the difference is if you were to go over to the the Pulse X V1 farms, you're only earning ink. You're only earning ink.
Right.
And that is an inflationary token, right? There's no deflation. But if you come over to the Titan Farms, you are earning TINK, which is deflationary, has a buy and burn, and you're also earning part of potentially the fees as well, in addition to whatever it is you're providing liquidity for. So you know for sure that you're getting potentially 2 tokens as your incentive and your reward. So you are way overly incentivized.
Now
to
I heard,
get in these
so
pools.
I'm curious, and maybe we'll need to replay that, but I heard it a little differently. So this is great. This is why I love the discussion.
Yeah.
I thought that you only earned TINK plus some of the fees is if you were providing with a core token against, I can't remember what he called it.
Oh, the
a
input
secondary-
token.
The
Or the
input
secondary
token.
input. Yeah.
So then you'll earn TINK plus the normal fees if you use like he uses the example of Volt. So I don't know if that's the case with just the regular core tokens.
Right. Oh, with the core tokens, yeah, no, it's just going to be like if
Okay.
it's a TitanX Volt, then yeah, Volt is not an input token or a core token. Yeah, you're bang on there. Thanks for clarifying that. But that was
perfect.
what I was trying to say.
Yeah, well, I mean, it took 2 of us to stumble through it.
Yeah, we
But
got
in
it done,
that
though.
case, that's awesome. So then instead of providing liquidity for, say, Inferno or Volt or any of the other multitude of projects that are launching soon, instead of providing that liquidity on Uniswap, if you come to the farms, you'll get normal Uniswap fees plus TINK. Oh, that's amazing.
Dude, that's huge. I mean, if the charts are already showing, like, I mean, everything's kind of moving a little bit, and
Yeah.
news is just starting to get out. We've got DragonX is pumping a little bit. We got TitanX is pumping, Hyper's pumping, Volt is pumping. I mean, and the news is just getting out. So I think this is going to be interesting to watch over the next day while this comes out. I wonder how people will react, and I don't think many people are fully are getting the news quite yet. So
Yeah.
this might be only the beginning.
And just as a case and example, and then we'll move on. The reason why there's a lot of value in this, and Jake will explain this later, and it's full range versus concentrated liquidity and stuff like this. But because of this announcement, the price of TitanX has gone up, and my liquidity pool, which I'm looking at right now, I'm now out of range. So I've experienced 100% impermanent loss. I hold no more TitanX. I hold all ETH. So that's one thing that's really nice about these farms is for people that don't know what they're doing. This is kind of an easy button for folks that aren't really up to speed with liquidity providing. This is an easy button that actually pays better. So it doesn't get much better than that.
Seriously.
So,
and it's so much lower maintenance.
Oh yeah. I love the easy button, which goes back to what the name of this stream is. It's pretty easy to make $1 million right now in crypto. And we're going to talk about that because I actually mentioned that because of PTGC. I didn't know about this, and this just made it all the better.
Yep. This came in hot at the perfect time. So shall we keep going there for
Yeah.
4 minutes? Let's do it.
Okay, so you just mentioned lockup periods. What way is the lockups going to work?
Oh, there's no lock.
I can't believe this is there's like no information out on this yet. It's just it's dropping. So sorry, what's the lockup periods? Is it any
0? There's no
Zero.
lockups. I call it
That's
a lockup
huge.
because it takes the tokens, locks them in liquidity pool, so a user doesn't have the ability to sell unless they go back out of the position.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking, obviously, things like 9inch were offering people massive bonuses for, locking up for over a year, kind of stuff like that. Is there any features like that? Or it's just straight in, straight out, anytime you want?
Straight in, straight out, whenever you want.
Nice. I kind of like that. I kind of like that. You just, enter in and out. It's going to be crazy busy tomorrow or today. Like, is it launching? Is it going to be active for people within hours, or are we going to have to wait maybe 10, 12 hours?
It'll be live within this day. Let's put it that way. And Eric is going to post the actual sites and stuff.
Okay.
Which is why.
Come on, Jake. I got to go to work,
because
man.
I'm taking over marketing for Titan Farms. Since Eric is sick, he can barely talk.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say on that. Just how is Eric doing?
Okay. Do you want to comment on what we just watched?
I mean, how am I going to sleep tonight? Like, this is the part of the front end of the bull market. This is the stuff that we knew that was going to happen. That's why I rested up all summer. I needed to rest up. It's going to get super exciting. It already is super exciting. Yep. We've got these farms launching. My gosh, 369 payout. So much launching on TitanX right now. You got Alien X coming out. You've got Awesome X. You've got farms are launching.
X28.
X28. What, Morpheus?
Dude, it's just like
the Matrix.
There's more than 10 protocols coming at this point that we know of. It's
stupid on steroids. And I mean, and that's just TitanX. Like,
I love that saying.
And so here's what I absolutely love about these two ecosystems. So PTGC and UFO, it's the easy button. Literally, it's like my 401k. It just does its job. With that ecosystem, the greatest asset is time. You just let time do its thing, and that just ticks away all on its own. You don't need to be playing these games, mining this or chasing that. So I love being in the PTGC UFO ecosystem because I just get a position. I slowly grow that position. It is literally my 401k. I check it once a month. I restake. I do what I have to do. That's the easy button. That's the easiest way to make $1 million right now, I think. I love TitanX because I get to scratch that DeFi itch where I'm just a freaking DeFi chat out here. I'm going all in on it. And it's a full degen, playing liquidity pools. At least I was. I can't wait to see how this goes out. You're mining, you're ratio trading, you're doing all this type of stuff. But I don't want to say it's completely risk-free, but it's a lower risk because the beautiful thing that Jake has built within the TitanX ecosystem is everything is paired to TitanX or something else in the ecosystem. It's not paired to ETH. So it's all going to trade in ratios. So even if, one goes up versus the other, you're still going to be left holding an asset that is going to ultimately go up because TitanX is going to ultimately go up. And that's the foundation. It's the base coin of everything in the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I mean, I want you to, before I say anything, I'd love you to give the audience your analogy you spoke about the comparison between PTGC and DragonX so people can understand, if they like DragonX or they like PTGC, the crossover there, because I think your analogy was brilliant. You put it on X.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. Do we want to be done with this right now? Or do we want to play a little bit more tape, maybe take some questions on the TitanX Farms, and then we'll jump into, it's kind of like a great bridge conversation.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's do that. Let's watch a couple more minutes of this, and then we'll get to the chat, see what everyone has for questions. Guys, start loading the chat with your questions so far. If you've got anything on what we've talked about for the farms, and then we'll get to you in a few minutes as soon as we're done getting through the next few minutes in the stream. So let's do it.
He's been, I've had sent him a couple of messages the last few days, but he seems pretty bad. Hopefully he's okay, is he?
He seems like he's recovering, which is good. but he was
Okay.
definitely not okay.
Yeah.
But he's a fighter, you know. Farms
Yeah.
out. That's it.
to have been building this for so long, to be sick whenever it's launching, it's kind of a bummer. But maybe the launch and the success will give him a bit of extra energy to recover.
Exactly. Yeah. So Eric is also going to stream, but I'm taking over the launch marketing now since he can't. But I'm excited for farms, man. This is going to do a lot for the ecosystem because in the future, other pairs can also be incentivized. So, for example, Inferno TitanX can be incentivized. All the core tokens can be incentivized. So, like, we made this tweet around like kingdoms of TitanX. So you have the DragonX kingdom, Helios kingdom, Inferno kingdom, which is meme-fi, which is very interesting. Then you have Volt kingdom and whatever. I put it on Twitter. So you can incentivize all these core tokens, which will take the entire kingdom up with them. There's very, very interesting like secondary results that a farm creates that are not just, hey, incentivize liquidity providers. There's just like a lot for the ecosystem, and I think it's going to attract a hell of a lot of whales in, because you get whales in through two methods. One is you increase liquidity amongst all pairs, so whales have to eat less and less slippage as time goes by, so they operate with larger position sizes, which increases volume, which provides more buy and burn to think, which drags more people in. And then whales, they love these V3 full range positions because they can take two tokens they like, put them in a V3 full range farm, earn rewards on it without massive risk of impermanent loss. So you're going to get a hell of a lot locked up.
They could get massive volumes locked up in those pools, like serious volumes, just for the first place that we can actually go and not have to play around with liquidity positions and take the hit on impermanent loss. People, it's a very well educated ecosystem on single-sided liquidity and all that. And like you say, that has its benefits. It also has its risks, and it also has its time management. This makes it kind of a lot simpler and easier for a lot of people to participate in this, and especially with these people building big positions. Sorry, I was just looking there. The Volt is ending in seconds here. The ROI for the day is down to 4%. It's just 3, 2, 1, done. Volt day 10 just finished. They brought in 2 trillion.
Okay, I think we can end it there.
You read my mind, my man.
So I want to give a quick example, an actual visual example here for the audience. There was some other information that was kind of before where we started the stream that was, I think, very impactful. And Jake was talking about now that there will be a farm available where whales can actually make more money by using full range V3 liquidity. We will see, hopefully, this is in theory, but in theory, we will see less buy and or sell walls on TitanX. And for those of you that don't understand what that means, let me share my screen. I'll give you a full, let's see, no, I don't want to do that one. Example of, I'm gonna have to go back and forth. So I'm gonna go this one of what that looks like. So can you see my liquidity thing here, Steve?
Yep.
Okay. So recently, we saw the TitanX price really kind of stuck at a certain price. And if you see this bar here, this largest bar, that largest bar represents a very narrow liquidity position that's also very large. So the red line here represents the current price. So we actually busted through that bar, which is pretty amazing. But the price had been on the opposite side of that bar. So what we saw happening is that the price would move up and it would hit that bar, and then it would pull back, and the price would move up and it would hit that large liquidity position and it would pull back. That's what's called a sell wall. And that is somebody's got a ton of liquidity. They're trying to sell it at a specific price, and the price can't go past it until all of that liquidity is gone. And if we look at the TitanX chart, which do you see that now?
Yep.
So you can see right here, this little consolidation period is basically when that position was put in. So as the price was running up, it was going up pretty quick. Somebody saw an opportunity to exit, and they put, boom, right here is where that liquidity position was. So they put that right there. It acted like a ceiling, and the price just kept trying to go boom, 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 boom. And today, just today, right here is when it finally busted through. There was more buyers than that liquidity position could hold back. And so that's what when you hear Jake talking in this stream about hopefully we're not going to have as many whales putting in very large sell walls, which essentially oppress the price. So that's going to be distributed more fairly. So the price can, in theory, again, move a little bit more freely up and down, which is good for volatility, especially if, collecting fees is the thing you like. The more volatility, the more fees. That's why these farms are often. So I just wanted to give that little example so people, when you're hearing Jake talk about whales providing sell walls, buy walls, this type of thing, that's exactly what it meant. And so hopefully by having a highly incentivized farm, there will be less of that, which will enable the price to move a little bit more naturally.
100%. I think that's a great explanation. And it's one thing to understand for the audience too, is it's not necessarily going to eliminate it, but it's going to overly incentivize this route. So that way, instead of the only way for people to really want to play the game is to try and provide the concentrated liquidity and earn the most fees, they're earning potentially more fees or value by playing a game that's more benevolent or beneficial to the entire ecosystem and to other participants as well, which even if there's sell walls, the overall liquidity impact on price will go down. So price can move a little more freely, which actually in turn should mean that sell walls should be easier to go through in general because you're not stacking multiple sell walls on top of each other. Yep. You've got a base amount of liquidity that allows the price to move at a certain rate. And then you've got one bar somewhere there, which would be easier to move through, or 2 bars, but it should be less in theory. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you think so? In listening to that stream, Jake did mention a few times like, oh, these sell walls will be gone. Whales won't be exiting through V3 liquidity. Do you think that's 100% accurate? Or tell me your thoughts on what you think the farms will do to those highly concentrated V3 positions that act as sell walls or buy walls.
Well, I don't think it's going to eliminate it. I think that would be the wrong way to put it, because you're not, it's not like Farms deletes the option to provide a single-sided liquidity position in a Uniswap V3 pool. It just simply over incentivizes the alternative. So still, for bigger players, it is beneficial to everybody for them when they want to sell not properly, but when they want to sell in a fashion that gives them the least amount of slippage, that impacts the price chart visually the least, and that's going to be still single-sided liquidity. So you're still going to see that. Like that's as the what's the framing I've heard someone put it? It's ethic. No, hold on. I had it. If it comes back, I'll say it. But there was like a responsible exiting.
Yeah.
So you're not painting a massive wick to the downside on the price chart, but are you in agreement? Are you thinking that that's going to be the same thing? Like we'll see less of it overall, but it'll still be a thing.
Yes, agreed. I think that especially once we see the return on Tink, if it's a big enough carrot, kind of like Jake said, I think whales will play that game. But at the same time, there's always going to be somebody that wants to exit at a specific price. And the best way to do that is provide it in a relatively narrow range in Uniswap. So we'll still see them. Who knows? Time will tell whether the impact is if these farms are going to reduce the impact on some of those sell walls, or if whales are still going to be whales and play their games. But for 99% of people, probably 95% of people that are in this ecosystem, then these farms are amazing because it's just the easy button for liquidity, and you can earn your fees, and you don't have to worry about ranges. You don't have to worry about impermanent loss as much. There's a point in the video where Jake says, well, if it goes up 100x, and you're going to experience some impermanent loss. And the thing that's important to know about that is, dude, it just went up 100x. Do you really care?
Exactly. Well, and one thing on that, from learning over on the PulseX farms, or not, sorry, PulseX, but with specifically UFO and PTGC. I provided liquidity over there a while back, and just watching two tokens that move similarly over time, and maybe one's a little bit outpacing the other one, you are getting very minimal impermanent loss if both tokens are moving even relatively close to one another. And over time, if you have patience, that ratio might come back to the sweet spot where you originally provided your liquidity, and then you're going to have zero impermanent loss, and you've been earning fees this whole way. I mean, like that's the dream, in my opinion, is having an ecosystem that the impermanent loss is mitigated because they're all moving together, and you're earning fees and you're earning another token on top of it that's deflationary, has a buy and burn, yada yada yada. I mean, that's the dream.
Got it. Yeah, it is. You're right. I mean, when people say DeFi is the way and you can earn this passive income and type, whatever, this is how. This is the way, which is really cool about it. And that's what, again, now both ecosystems provide a way for people to do that. So with PTGC ecosystem, you have UFO, which is a farm, which is amazing. And now you've got TitanX Farms, which the fact that there's a buy and burn on the incentive token that is fueled by the fees, it's just like, that is some brilliant stuff. We'll see how it works out. Now I will put, timeout. Every single time a new protocol launches, there is security risk. So know that. The great thing about Jake and his team is that they have proven over and over again that they take security to the utmost of importance, multiple audits, all this type of stuff. But I never like to be the first guy to ape into anything new, because when you're talking about liquidity, it is not your keys, not your coins. You're actually turning over your coins to that protocol. So if there's any sort of protocol risk, you could lose your tokens. I don't think that's going to be the case. We have seen that TitanX has been running for dang near a year with 0 issues. And it's not like just running with 0 issues. It's got a huge, huge buy and burn pool. So there's this giant carrot of ETH sitting there that people are trying to hack, and it hasn't happened. So they've buttoned up their security really well. Same goes with Hyper. We've seen TitanX Farms, or not farms, excuse me, with the buy and burn. All of that has been incredibly secure. I do know that they have paid for the best security audits. They have paid for the best devs. But know that the first couple of days of any protocol are the highest risk, because that's when bugs are found, if there are bugs. I don't expect it to happen, but that's just my public service announcement. Always be careful. Please.
All I was gonna say was I appreciate that. I think everyone should know that. And speaking of like risks and stuff, what would you say, if someone's going into this, should they be thinking like, this is something they should ape into, this is something that they should go carefully into? And then how would you think about something like that? Because there are risks to liquidity providing. So how would you frame assessing this to someone who's just coming in? They've never provided liquidity before, but they're interested. They want to earn TINK. They want to earn some fees. They want to get in on the game. How would you build a framework for them to understand how they should participate?
Great question. Warren Buffett's #1 rule of money is don't lose money. So, but Warren Buffett is not a crypto guy, because any crypto guy's #1 rule of crypto is go all in right now. So that's the difference. So if I'm doing this, and if it's one of my clients that I consult with, #1, start a new wallet. Always start a new wallet. Only send to that wallet what you're willing to lose. So if you've never done this before and you want to do this, send something small. And also, another timeout, nothing that is said on any of these streams is financial advice. We're 2 random ass guys on the internet talking about things that interest us. Neither one of us is a financial advisor. And never play with money you can't afford to lose if you decide to gamble in the casino of crypto. And that is all it is.
Yep.
Public service announcement.
All advice on this channel is worth the amount that you paid to get it.
Exactly. And maybe slightly less.
And exactly.
So fresh wallet. So that way, if there is an issue, you don't put any other funds that you're holding in a wallet at risk. Because there's things called like permissions and all this type of stuff. You will have to give permissions when you send money into farms. And if you give permissions away and there's something wrong in the protocol, they can drain your wallet. So always start a new wallet, only fund it with what you're willing to lose. And if you're new at this game, start very small. The temptation is going to be there. I promise you, you're going to be like, well, day 1 is when all the fees are going to be made. Yep, you're right. And the reason why that is because day 1 is the highest risk. So it's always risk for reward. So what are you willing to risk? And you will be rewarded, in that fashion. But if you've never done this before, fresh wallet, only send what you're willing to lose, and send a small amount. You can do it for a day. You can look at it. You can see how it's happening. You can add a little bit more. You can add a little bit more. That's what I would say. Just go slow. The temptation is there. FOMO will absolutely kill you in the bull market. So you better get used to managing your FOMO right now. And that starts today. I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Well, honestly, I couldn't echo it any better. I think, playing the game carefully, playing it slowly, going in with the amount that you're willing to lose, and then slowly as you're gaining understanding, gaining time in the protocol, seeing what the incentive structure is actually paying out, seeing what's worth your time, what's not worth your time based on the other games you want to play. Because that's the one thing that this is, right? This is a game. There's all these ecosystems, all these pieces to the ecosystem are all little games. And the only thing I would add now that I'm thinking about it is figure out what games you are comfortable managing. How well do you understand the game? And based on that, then you want to start considering how much you want to play the game. Because if you don't know what game you're playing, you're probably losing and someone else is winning at your expense. Unfortunately, that's how crypto works.
That is 100% how crypto works. For somebody to hit 100x, somebody else had to lose 100x. That's the game we're playing. And usually it's the people that know what they're doing versus the people that don't know what they're doing. And you bring up a really good point. I just had a conversation this morning with a gentleman, and he's playing two games. He's playing a liquidity game, and he's playing a trading bag. And he shared with me his frustration. He's like, man, I'm bummed. I got this liquidity bag and I only made this much of fees, but in the last 24 hours, my trading bag has gone up this much, and I should have put my liquidity bag into my trading bag. And I was like, whoa, no. That's like playing a soccer game and getting mad that you didn't score a touchdown. You're playing two different games. So you have to understand the game that you're playing, what the potential upside is, and what the opportunity cost is, because there's an opportunity cost to everything in crypto. If you put in your funds, let's call it a 10 billion TitanX into a liquidity farm, and the price runs up 100x, you will experience impermanent loss, even if it's full range, and you'll have less TitanX at the end of that. And you're like, oh man, I wish I just kept my TitanX. Well, you got paid a ton of fees during that time period. You could have used those to buy more TitanX, or perhaps, the Tink token goes up, but there's always an opportunity cost. So know the game you're playing, understand what it is. And if you put this is one of the things that I do all the time to save me from me. Before I make any trade, before I do any liquidity providing, before I do ratio trading, before I do anything, I figure it out, and then I write down on paper, I am making this trade, or I am making this decision, and I understand that this is the downside, and that's a risk I'm willing to take. So if the downside happens, I get to come back and look at the note I read to myself and be like, oh yeah, I can't be mad. Crap. But you got to know the game you're playing. You brought up an excellent point there. Would you add anything to that?
No, in fact, I think you hit the nail on the head. But what I'm realizing is we could have a whole episode just on this topic of playing the game, how to think about things, being careful, going back and forth. Because like you brought up with the trader, or your trader friend with the two bags, it's like, it's so easy to think that, oh, this way is winning, so I should go all in here. And then the market conditions, the game to change. You don't look at the whole picture well enough, where you miss something and then it goes against you. Now you're really behind. So, overexposing and overplaying one game just because it's going a certain way is always just such a dangerous way to go about it. But speaking of games that tend to go up and to the right, well, I think this is a perfect transition point to talk about a little something called PTGC and UFO. And I would love for you to give your analogy now for those who are in DragonX and not in PTGC, or vice versa, of why one ecosystem needs to pay attention to the other and how to understand it, just plain and simple. I thought you brought a perfect example of it up on Twitter the other day, or X, sorry.
Whatever it's called. Yeah, I was just going to look and see if I could actually bring that up. I don't have it. Well, I'll start talking about it. If you can find it and share it, maybe that would be cool too.
Sure.
So I gave a tweet, which here's going to be the fun part, is can I even remember my own tweet?
I'll find it for you in just a second here.
Okay, this is kind of hilarious. I'm not sure if he was paying attention or if he's just joking, but hey, you don't score touchdowns in soccer. Thank you, Damien. That was actually the point of the conversation. That's really funny. I appreciate it. Thank you for the laugh.
That's great.
Yeah, so the tweet was something along the lines of, do you believe in DragonX? Do you like the fact that DragonX is a cap supply that has burns, that is tied to a very powerful ecosystem? If you believe in that, why on earth are you not participating in PTGC and UFO? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because they're the same thing. And it's almost, now that we've got this TitanX Farms out, PTGC is DragonX, UFO is the TitanX Farms. Not quite the same, because UFO is actually a token of its own, but it leverages farms, and we'll discuss that right now. So did you find it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any DragonX fans out there, chew on this. PTGC is the DragonX of Pulse Chain. PTGC has a cap supply, burned liquidity, buy and burns funded by tax, which we can jump into that if people don't understand what that means. PTGC has already burned 11.5% of its own supply. PTGC leverages our bots and trading volume. Volume is the biggest, is the most important thing in that ecosystem. And bonded LP to the largest core RH tickers, which is essentially the exact same thing as what's happening with this TitanX farm. So PTGC and UFO are like a beautiful hybrid of, let me say it this way. If you understand the TitanX ecosystem, PTGC and UFO are like the optimized version of DragonX and TitanX Farms. That's kind of what it is. If you don't understand the TitanX ecosystem, then TitanX, DragonX, and the farms are an optimized version of PTGC and UFO. But for this particular ecosystem, this is where I say it's the easy button. So it's never been easier to make $1 million in crypto if you have two things. One, you actually have to have a bag of PTGC and or UFO. And number two, you have the utmost of patience. This is a game of time. You just let time do its thing. You don't check your 401k every day and look at the trading pairs and all this type of stuff. You forget about that. Usually I do. A retirement account of some sort, depending on where you are in the world. You forget about it and you come back 6 months later and you're like, oh yeah, I wonder how my retirement account is doing. PTGC is the same thing. Time is your best friend. Just let time do its thing. This is an immaculately built protocol and system that leverages arbitration bots that are all over Pulse Chain, that buy and sell on a daily basis to keep the prices across all of the decentralized exchanges basically the same. And they also arb different prices. So arbitration between, as I said here, bonded liquidity to the largest core Richard Hart tickers. So Hex, Pulse Chain, PulseX. You've got a Tropa in there. You've got a few others. Those are going to have huge volumes in the upcoming bull market. So as those prices go up and down, there will be arbitration opportunities between the different plays. And these arbitration bots, our bots, will be making those plays and those trades, trying to make money. And it'll route through PTGC, which every time there's a trade, there's a 5% buy tax and a 5% sell tax. That money goes into the Decentralized Autonomous Organization, DAO, as you may have heard it called before. And the DAO appropriates those funds into a few different buckets. One is just a straight buy and burn, buys PTGC, takes it off the market. Remember, it's a cap supply coin. Two, it buys PTGC off of the market and distributes it to stakers. So you can stake your PTGC and earn yield, but the yield is paid from market bought PTGC, not inflation. It is a cap supply coin. I think that's the thing most people miss on this ecosystem. And then number three, what the DAO does is it actually goes and buys other tickers like Hex, like Pulse Chain, like PulseX, and takes those and moves it into their liquidity pools, which are burned liquidity. It will never see the light of day again, which is further removing PTGC from the market. So this is just a gorgeously built system. And then you've got UFO on top of that, which is gorgeous on steroids. I want to hear what you have to say about it.
Well, dude, you pretty much nailed it. I mean, I was thinking as you're saying, like, man, I think you're nailing all the key points so perfectly. I mean, I think the biggest thing I would say for people to understand is that, when Pulse Chain pumps in the way that we think it could, if you go look in the past, and past results are not related to future potentials, or however that freaking saying goes. But if you were to go look at the chart, you'll find from December of 2023 to its local high on both Pulse and PTGC, you'll notice an interesting ratio. And we don't know if that's going to continue in the future, but Pulse did a 4x, PTGC did a 42x. And if you go to Richard Hart's Twitter and you see a post he made a little while ago talking about how these gains work, if Pulse, let's say for a market situation here, to understand how gains work in this realm and why PTGC is even doing this, is because economic energy goes into Pulse Chain, for example, right? Let's say Pulse does a 50% move, right? Well, just simply because of arbitrage, right? What's going to happen is Pulse is going to move or pull up Hex in price. Now, Hex is also going to see that 50% move, right? The ratio is going to stay the same. But let's say now that economic energy is going from ETH to Pulse, then to Hex. What's going to happen is the 50% move is going to happen with Pulse first, going to bring Hex up. And then the economic energy is going to go into Hex, which is going to then bring Hex up on top of that. So there's like a multiplier. And this is what we're seeing with UFO and PTGC, and why these freaking charts are just bananas, man. And
Bananas.
what you're bringing up is important, because the wrap Pulse chart, not the USD chart, is the one that is amazing to look at. I don't think there's another chart in crypto, or at least in the Pulse chain ecosystem, that's doing anything like what PTGC is doing. And don't sleep on UFO either, because UFO is not necessarily the same as PTGC. It's a brother token, or I like to call PTGC the mothership and UFO the brothership, where they're related, but they're not the same. And it's important to understand that, where the brothership is feeding the mothership. It's doing the work for the mothership. It's burning PTGC. And actually, from what I remember in conversations with others, UFO is actually burning more PTGC some of the time than PTGC itself. Now, UFO is also
100%.
burning. Yeah, it's also burning UFO in this process. So you've got two, like PTGC is a hold token as well as a staking token, a locking token. UFO gives you a lot of pulse when you provide liquidity. And so if it's over incentivizing, which is fantastic, you placing your liquidity into the DApp, so that way you don't earn or get hit by any of the taxes, which is fantastic. Unless you go in the PTGC UFO pool. I did that. I learned the hard way. Please don't do that. You will earn a lot of fees on the way out, or get hit by a lot of taxes on the way out. But if you go to the other pools, there's no tax on providing liquidity. You're going to earn a ton of pulse, and it is a different incentivization structure. And the cool thing about UFO is the market cap, or the amount of holders, which I think is more important than the market cap number, because it's all just a number anyways. But the holders, and therefore the amount of position you can get in the ecosystem per dollar, is actually way higher in UFO. Not saying it's better or worse than PTGC, but for those of you who want larger positions in a token supply, UFO is a great is a great opportunity right now to get more per dollar of the total supply.
100%. You nailed that. And what's cool about UFO is this is basically the farms of TitanX that we just spent so much time talking about. And it's a little bit different. So it's its own token, and it is also a capped supply. It also has buy and burns. It also is, but it pays its rewards out to holders a little bit different. So it does. There is a reflection to it. So if you simply hold UFO in your wallet, you will slowly grow more UFO. However, you can also provide liquidity. So one of the things that is really unique about this is, so it is a DApp related liquidity farm, essentially. So you, in order to receive the benefit of providing liquidity for UFO, you have to do it through the DApp. If you just do it in PulseX, you're going to spend a 6% transfer fee sending your money or your UFO into PulseX, and you're going to eat a 6% transfer fee coming out, because that's one of the ways that both PTGC and UFO work. They also have a fee for sending it from wallet to wallet. So they're always collecting taxes and then leveraging those taxes within the ecosystem. But with UFO, what they've done is they've built I'll call it a workaround, but it's just part of their protocol, in that if you use their DApp to provide liquidity, that 6% fee for sending it in and sending it back is waived. So you can provide liquidity without getting nailed on taxes. Kind of like you just said, you did that and you paid the taxes, and that was a lesson that you learned. So what's really neat about UFO, and we could have a whole conversation debate surrounding which one do you go into, UFO or PTGC? And I've got some interesting information to share about that. But if you provide liquidity, it gives you, your pairs, UFO, PTGC. I will just time out, caution you.
Yeah.
If you use this pool, you will still pay the 5% fee to send in your PTGC, because this pool was created, or this token was created after PTGC, so they can't change anything about that.
And one thing on that note too, real quick, if you go back to not the PLP rewards, but the liquidity page, there is a note on the page. And if you want to learn anything from me or us in this stream right now, it's read everything on the page, because I did not. I went very quick and I was just like, oh yeah, UFO PTGC. Woo! And then if you go up a little higher, and there's a button that's UFO liquidity pools, you'll see right at the top, note, token fees applies for this pair. If you don't read that, you will pay significantly. Please read the fine print at all times.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out.
Yep.
So what's cool about this is there is no staking with UFO, whereas with PTGC you stake it and then you get some rewards. With UFO, that the staking is essentially replaced by liquidity providing. And so when you provide liquidity with UFO, there is the liquidity fees are what you're earning, except for it's better than that. So it's a higher rate of fee that you're getting paid, and it's paid to you in PLS. So you're earning pulse by providing liquidity with UFO. And I'm blessed. I got into this really early. I have a decent sized bag, and I've done two things. I took 50% of my bag and I put it into liquidity, and I took 50% of my bag and I just held it in my wallet. So I'm earning reflections in my wallet, and then I'm earning the PLS as the reward for providing the liquidity. And one of the interesting observations I have had is it's been the exact same amount. So the reflections I've earned in UFO have equaled, within a couple dollars, I should say a couple percent, the value of the rewards that I have earned in PLS. So it's 50-50 as of right now. I don't know if, as the price of Pulse Chain goes up and volume goes up, if the rewards for providing liquidity will outpace the price or the value of the reflections. That'll be something that'll be really interesting to see. Is what is better? Is it actually better to provide the liquidity, or is it better to just hold? As of right now, dead the same. We'll see. What are your thoughts on that? Have you had experience with this, and what have you observed?
Well, I definitely noticed the reflections and the amount of pulse are very similar to what you said. I'm very curious to see over time. Like, I mean, with everything you just brought up, it kind of makes me feel like this is why you don't want to over leverage. You don't want to go overly into one game versus the other if you are looking to play different games, because things can equal out. Like, let's say for whatever reason, UFO lags behind PTGC for whatever reason, right? Pulse goes way up. UFO just, doesn't hang for some reason. You're earning pulse, that compensates. You get way more value out of the pulse as well. If they both go up, you're having both of them contribute to the overall yield you're getting. And then if just UFO keeps going, I mean, that pays dividends as well. So just covering both your bases is a way of thinking about things that I really love to do, and not over leveraging in one game more so than another if you are, trying to play multiple games.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That is very true. Shaka Vibes brings up an excellent point, which is there's so much good stuff about the PTGC ecosystem that it's easy to miss something that's freaking amazing about it.
Yep.
One of the amazing things, I gotta come up with a new word for amazing, because I think I just said that like 9 times. I need to study my vocabulary builder upper.
Perfect way to describe that.
Yeah, exactly. PTGC founder is a absolute your keys, your coins dude. He hates third-party risk. He hates anything that involves giving away your coins, essentially giving away your keys. And so UFO LP tokens stay in your wallet. It's not a typical farm where you send it away. It actually stays in your wallet. I don't know how that works. It's some sort of magic voodoo, but it's really, really cool. So the same with PTGC. Even when you stake your PTGC, it's still in your wallet. And so I've had that asked to me several times. Will somebody say, well, I stake my PTGC, but then I see it in my wallet. I've still got this extra, whatever billion. And I want to stake that. And I'm like, well, no, that's what you have. That's already what's staked. It stays in your wallet. So the protocol recognizes what you have in your wallet, and it compensates you accordingly without taking your coins. So with PTGC and UFO, it's always your keys. It's always your coins. There is no third-party risk, which is another reason why I love this ecosystem. What do you think about that? I mean, to me, that's amazing.
Well, I dare to say it's more Richard Hart than Richard Hart himself, but obviously it's not actually, but it's just funny how they figured out, if you really enjoy the Richard Hart ecosystem, I mean, this is right up your alley. This is as close to home with the ethos and the principles that makes this ecosystem what it is and what's been so special. And I think that if you are just hearing about this, I think it's your lucky day. There's a lot going on in this ecosystem. We were only just begun. And with that, I am realizing that remember how we said before this stream, how like, we're talking about maybe we'll cut it off 30, 40 minutes. And you're like, no, dude, we're going to have to stop ourselves at an hour. I want to make sure that we talk to the people and we answer some questions. So I don't have anything else to add other than what you have. So if you're cool with going to the questions, I think now would be a great time to close out the end of the stream.
100% agree. Two things I would like to mention first and foremost, if I may, before we jump into that.
Of course.
160 people have tuned in for the first time. This is our first ever stream.
That's
absolutely amazing. Thank you for being here. If you like this, please like, share, subscribe to my channel, to Cryptographics channel. Also, we want to hear from you. Put your comments in down below with the video. Tell us your thoughts on TitanX Farms. Tell us your thoughts on PTGC. Tell us your thoughts on what you'd like us to talk about. The more you interact with this video and interact with us, the better that we can help you in the future with content that we put out. And furthermore, the more interaction on YouTube, on Twitter, the more that these videos get moved up in the algorithm, and that benefits absolutely everybody, because we're talking about the tokens you're interested in. So interact with us, comments, likes, shares, talk to us in the comments. This is all for you guys. This is something that Steve and I partnered up on because we believe in these ecosystems and we want to see you be successful. And part of that is you got to work for your bags and interact with us. That's the first thing. Second thing, I see David Kiefer here. Missed the beginning preparing for the hurricane in Florida. Dude, that just gives me goosebumps, my man. Get the hell out of there if you can. Get your family out of there. Heartfelt prayers going out to everybody that's going to be impacted by this. It just, oh man, brings tears to my eyes. I'm heartbroken for you all. Stay safe. That's the number one priority. Get the hell out of there if you can. If not, bunker down. So thank you for letting me say that. Would you like to add anything to that?
I just want to second the hurricane stuff. It's been pretty crazy to watch how quickly it's been escalating. So yeah. My thoughts and prayers go to everyone. I hope everyone's safe. Get the hell out of there. And man, it's pretty incredible what's happening right now in a not so positive way.
Yeah,
so
it is. So why don't you kick it off? Actually, you know what? You've been asking me a lot of questions. I want to ask you some questions. This is coming up. TitanX ecosystem. Any thoughts on Element 280 as an index token? Kind of like the PTGC.
I do like it. I do like what they're doing there. I need to do a little bit more research in order to, fully grasp the ramifications, see exactly what pools they're going to go to. I did a once over on the white paper, and initially it seemed pretty cool. I think dude did a great job. I like the Element 280, thinking of it like a periodic table, and all the different tokens are on the periodic table. I think that was fantastic. I really enjoy that. So I think there's potential there, and I would just want to be a little bit more in the know of exactly what's getting paired with what. But as a basic premise, I think there's something there, and just need more details to figure out exactly what the future might look like for Element 280. But if it's anything considerably like the concept of what we've seen with PTGC in terms of leveraging the liquidity web, not necessarily leveraging using tax and volume and all that stuff, but that alone's powerful. That alone's a very powerful tool. And if it's paired right, that could be very, very, very beneficial. So I would love to know your thoughts on that as well. But that's really all I have on 280 at the moment.
Yeah, my thoughts are very much the same. I don't know enough about it to make an educated decision at this point. I do really like the two idea concepts behind it, such as an index token. Love it. And it's a really good way to kind of describe the PTGC ecosystem, is an index on all of the RH tickers. If those go up, PTGC goes up, just like holding an S&P 500 index fund does. So it has enough intrigue for me that I'm going to be diving into it a bit more. But as of right now, I can't make a decision.
I'm in the same boat. Let's see if this is okay. I'll get you back with another question if I can find one here. Unless you have one already brought up, then I'm fine with that as well.
No.
Let's see here. What do we got in the comments here? Can you guys? Sorry, Patrick O'Brien. He brings up, can you guys share your investment strategy on farms? Well, first things first here, my friend. We don't give financial advice. We are two dudes on the internet And that should tell you a whole lot about what you should or shouldn't accept from us in terms of information. What I can say is we did talk about different frameworks, different ways of looking at the farms, different risk tolerances. And I would highly recommend you going back and watching that whole section, which I think was probably in the first 20 minutes or so. We did a whole section on it, and I would say definitely go back and watch that, because that'll answer, not the investment strategy, but give you a base framework for how to then build your own investment strategy that works for you. So that's my personal take on that question. You got anything else to add on that front there?
Just a reiteration of some of the things we said. Take security very seriously, which we did discuss.
Yep.
Also, know the game that you're playing, because there's opportunity cost to everything. So just know that game and accept that risk before you go in. And it's sometimes, as much as it's fun to ape early, sitting back and observing for a day or two can really help you understand the picture better and know where you might want to go. Do I intend to participate? Of course, I'm a degen. To what extent, I don't know. I mean, am I going to turn my current liquidity pools into tank farms? We'll see.
Exactly. Well, that's why the beauty of what you're saying about patience is key, because you get to sit with what you have right now, and then you get to watch. And if incentives seem like it's worth it, then you can move. But at least you're not making a move that bites you in the ass before you know it's biting you in the ass.
That's exactly right. I was the first guy to get into a lot of stuff, and I was the first guy to lose a lot of money on a lot of stuff. So I don't play that game
powerful
anymore.
lessons, though. Powerful lessons.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
Question for you. Are you invested in Alien as well? Alien helps the burning with PTGC all the same. What are your thoughts?
I know very little about Alien because it's not one of the core tokens made by the PTGC founder and their team. So I have, because like you, Jeff, like a lot of us in this space, we've only got so many arms, hands, eyes, and brain cells that can keep track on so many different things at once. And Alien is not in my radar at the moment. Not to say that I discount it, that I don't think it's got potential, but it's one of those tokens where I just haven't had time to research, look into it, understand it enough to have even an opinion. So that's all I can say about that. What about you, Jeff?
Very similar. I would compare Alien to the PTGC ecosystem like I would compare like Inferno or Volt to the TitanX system. As far as I know, it's a great protocol. The price has performed. It does burn PTGC. It's not one of the core tokens from the PTGC founder. For Alien on the PTGC ecosystem, to answer the question directly, I do not hold any. But I do know that founder is teaming up with Ali Kane and the Accelerate team from TitanX, and he's going to be building Alien X on TitanX. He's also partnering up with I believe it's the Verse, Chris Chaos, and they're going to be launching that. And I will be paying close attention to that because I saw how well Alien performed in the PTGC ecosystem. I don't make it a habit to buy coins that have already done 100x anymore. Another lesson I learned the hard way. So personally, I'm not touching Alien on Pulse Chain, but I'm very intrigued about Alien X on TitanX. So I hope that gave you a little bit of direction towards your question. Any other questions that you see that you want to? I've got one, and then we'll wrap it up on this one, unless you have something else you would like to address. Steve, not financial advice. Thank you for saying that, Big Billy-O. But in your guys' opinion, what's must-have tokens for newbies with $1,000 budget?
Oh, it's a good question. I mean, if I were to narrow it down, not to which tokens, but to how to consider, the key word in there is newbies, right? What games, what capacity do most newbies have? Not a lot for understanding nuance and a lot of technical information, jargon, strategic ways of thinking, correlations between other aspects of tokens that relate to one another, and how it all kind of comes together. Like being able to go in and see the micro picture and how it relates to a macro picture is probably not your forte quite yet. So if you're a newbie, what I would say is play games that are the simplest and seem to be already working. Like, for example, this isn't necessarily what I would recommend because there's no financial advice here, but if you were to take a simple game like PTGC or Dragon X, those are simple to understand games, or even thinking about TitanX in general as well, because you've got very little to think about other than with TitanX, it's the core of an ecosystem that is becoming harder and harder to make over time, right? As if you can understand that principle alone, you can see the potential value in the future. You don't have to participate in anything else. You can just hold the token. You know, DragonX is a form of leveraging the limited supply that was created on top of TitanX, but it's only deflationary. There's zero deflation or zero inflation, right? So it only gets more scarce over time, and it gains some of its value also from the TitanX payout pools. So there's some interesting stuff there. It's a little bit more complex than just understanding TitanX, but if you can understand the basic premise of deflationary token, that's something to consider as well. PTGC and UFO are the same thing. So if you're looking at any token that's got a simple game that you can understand, I would look to those kind of tokens if you're a newbie with a limited budget, $1,000 budget, whatever your budget is, but look to the games you can understand right off the bat, that you don't need to go pay someone for, that you don't need to go ask a million people, start doing spreadsheets to understand. If you can't understand it right away within maybe a 5-minute conversation, I would say to steer clear for now. What about you, Jeff?
That was a really good answer, but not specific.
That's the only way.
Yeah. Let me do this. So this was the thumbnail, the easiest path to $1 million.
Yep.
Not financial advice, but to answer this question very specifically, actually, what I love about your going first there is you gave all of the reasons why. My answer is what it is. And my answer is UFO. Because it is the easy button. It is your 401k. You buy it. You don't even need to provide the liquidity for it. You just hold it in your wallet. You're going to be earning reflections, and it's going to be leveraging all of its liquidity within the core RH tickers, which, you and I know that the value of the liquidity bonding, and there's going to be a lot of potential upside to that protocol, and it is the easy button. So on the basis of your keys, your coins, you hold it in your wallet. There's no third-party risk for that. You're going to be earning reflections, so you're going to be earning yield for just holding it in your wallet. And all you have to do is go to work and forget about it for like a year, and then come back and say, oh, look, it's quite a bit more valuable than when I bought it. The other reason why I chose that is because currently, to buy a sizable position in TitanX or in DragonX, it's wicked expensive. I mean, you're talking 10, 20, 30K. If you wanted, a sizable, I'm calling it like dolphin or shark position. For those that don't know, a shark position is 0.1% of the supply. A dolphin position is 0.01% of the supply, which is enough to mean something, but not so much that you're like this giant holder, like a whale. But of all of the coins that are currently we're talking about, you can buy a dolphin size or even a shark size position with UFO with not as much capital. So for the specific question of $1,000 budget, you're going to get a bigger chunk of the supply with UFO. It still has all the same upside as the other tokens we've discussed. But it's the easy button, man. And I love easy in PTGC ecosystem. For me, is the easiest path to $1 million, because all I got to do is absolutely nothing, which is why I love it.
That's great. I think you nailed it. That's an awesome answer.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So I think that's it for us. We wanted to stick to an hour and we already blew that, but we're close enough. If you enjoyed this, let us know about it. Would you like to see more content? We're talking about doing once a week. Depends on what the community feedback is. Maybe we do twice a week. Depends on where the bull market is. I mean, Steve and I are friends. We're flexible. We're wanting to do this for you. Let us know what you want to see. Give us comments below, your questions, your feedback, what we could do better, what you'd like to learn more about. We're here for you. So please give us some feedback. Anything you'd like to close with, Steve?
No, just make sure that you're following us on all socials, because we're streaming on Twitter, we're streaming on YouTube. We may branch out to other places, and we interact with you guys different on different platforms. Like YouTube, we answer your questions directly. Twitter, we get to the comments we can see on posts. But we interact with you differently, so you don't want to miss the different posts. Like we don't get to post the stuff that Jeff was posting in terms of the DragonX to PTGC comparison. So make sure you're following us on both socials, so you're getting updates wherever we have info for you, and we can interact with you in different ways.
Yeah, awesome. With that, let's go ahead and farewell. Have a great day. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day and stay safe out there.
Stay safe.